Shalom, Israel. This is Brother Karatazar, Shield of Israel 144, back again with another quick precept. And today I want to talk about the book of the law, talking about the first five books of Moses and what the scriptures say about the first five books. You hear sometimes that certain people say that we don't have to live under the Old Testament laws, which is found in the first five books of Moses. But these are the laws, statutes, commandments that the Lord gave to the children of Israel that we should keep forever. You know, this is how we govern ourselves as a nation of people. This is our moral code. This is our civil code. This is our way of life. So as long as there's a children of Israel, there'll always be laws, statutes, commandments to govern the children of Israel that was given by the Most High God of Israel. So let's get right into it. We're going to jump into the book of Nehemiah, chapter 8 and verse 1, and it reads, "And all the people gathered themselves together as one man into the streets that was before the water gate. And they spake unto Ezra, the scribe, to bring the book of the law of Moses, which the Lord had commanded to Israel." Right? So here's the people being gathered together, to hear the book that contained the law, statutes, commandments that was given to Moses by the Most High to read to the children of Israel, so they can have an understanding of what they should be doing, right? So Nehemiah gathered all the people for the reading, and let's go down to Nehemiah 8 and 8, right? This is the book of Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 8, and it reads, "So they read in the law of God distinctly, and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading," right? So they read the book of the law of God. Here's where it was called the law of God. Sometimes you hear the law of Moses, but ultimately this is the law of the Most High God. So when you hear people say we don't have to keep the law no more, they're telling you that you don't have to keep God's law anymore. But we all know that we have to keep the law because the law endureth forever, right? So they read the book to give the sense, to give the understanding, right, of the reading of the scriptures, man, so they can have an understanding of what they should be doing in their lives according to the law that God gave Moses, the laws of God, right? So the important thing for this reading of this book at that time was to get the understanding, right? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 5, right? And this is the book of Proverbs chapter 4, verse 5, and it reads, "Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth," right? So the main thing is to get the understanding, and one way you can get the understanding is the reading of the book. Let's jump down to verse number 7, right? This is book of Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 7, and it reads, "Wisdom is the principal thing." So the principal thing is to get the wisdom. And the only way you can get the wisdom is the reading of the book. "Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding." And that's what the people gathered with Nehemiah that day, to get the wisdom and ultimately to get the understanding of what they was reading in the law of God that was given to Moses, right? Let's go to the Apocrypha, and let's go to the book of Baruch, chapter 4 and verse 1, and what it says. See what it says about the book, right? This is the book of Baruch, chapter 4 and verse 1, and it reads, "This is the book of the commandments of God." There go again saying the commandments of God. Now, the commandments was given to Moses, and that's where you hear the term, the law of Moses. But ultimately, that law came from the Most High God of Israel. So it's the laws of God, the commandments of God, the statutes of God. Reading on. "And the law that endureth forever. All that keep it shall come to life, but such shall leave it shall die." So the understanding is, if you leave these instructions that the Lord gave the people, you're gonna die. But if you keep it, you shall live. And this is the law that endureth forever, as the scripture said. So there's no such thing as the law's been done away with. We don't have to keep the laws of Moses anymore, because right here in the book of Baruch, it reads that it's the law that endureth forever. And you'll see Christ talking about keeping the law. Paul talk about keeping the law. In the book of Revelations about keeping the law. This law is forever. It never goes away, because this is the word that we should live by, that you read in Matthew chapter 4:4, right? Let's go to Matthew chapter 4:4, right? And you also find that in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 8:3, right? This is Matthew chapter 4:4, and it reads, "But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God." And the word of out of the mouth of God comes in the Old Testament, in the first 5 books, where you get the law, statutes, commandments. This is Christ talking to the devil when he went up in the mountain for 40 days, and fasted, right? And the devil tried to tempt him. But he told you that man ain't going to live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. This is Christ right here speaking the words of God. And he got it in the first 5 books when you go back to Deuteronomy chapter 8:3, right? This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 8:3, and it reads, "And he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of the Lord doth man live." So this is how you live according to the scriptures, right? And that's why Nehemiah had to give the sense, and the people had to get the understanding, because like the scripture said, with all thy getting, get understanding, right? So I'm gonna get one more, then I'll wrap it up. This is the book of Joshua, chapter 1 and verse 8. This is about the book again, right? Joshua 1 verse 8, and it reads, "This book of the law shall not depart out thy mouth." So what it's saying when it says it shall not depart out thy mouth, you should always have the law in your mouth. You should be always meditating, concentrating, and speaking about the law. It should never not be out of their mouth, right? You hear on the streets that some people say, "Keep my name out your mouth." That means don't speak on your name. But here, this law shall always be in thy mouth, right? Reading on. "But thou shalt meditate therein day and night, and thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy ways prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success," right? This book of the law should always be in your mouth. You should be always meditating on it, right? Because if you do, you will have good success. You shall prosper, because you will be meditating on it. You'll be doing the laws. You'll be living by the laws, and then you know what I'm saying. The good success would come, because we just read in the book of Baruch that all that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. We're talking about the book of the law of the commandments. So this book that, people say we don't have to live by anymore because Christ gave new laws, but Christ didn't give new laws. He quoted out of the first 5 books, where Nehemiah gathered the people to hear, to get the understanding. Christ had an understanding because he did no sin, right? Christ would never teach you to do something and then he wouldn't have no sin. He didn't expect you to do the same thing, because we're supposed to walk after Christ, right? So this is just a quick precept talking about the book, the book that we should live by, the book we should meditate by, and the book that shall always be in thy mouth. This is Brother Karatazar, Shield of Israel, 144. Shalom.